My name is Jane Ellis, and I'm the CEO and founder of EF Training. This sounds like a really fun half an hour, doesn't it? I promise you it will be, okay? What's it got to do with person-centered care? Because we're the person too, aren't we? And although we know that this is the best job in the world, don't we? Agree with me, this is the best job in the world. Yes, it is. Yes, definitely. Thank you very much. This is the best job in the world. If there's none of us to do this job, because we're not looking after ourselves, then there isn't any point in anything else going on. So we can't do the person-centered care. Now, my background is nursing. I trained in nursing. And I love the job. I absolutely love it. I always have. I stepped away from that frontline role 6 years ago because I wanted to create a training session, which is what I'm going to give you a little taster of, that helps us to create and sustain emotional resilience, helps us understand what compassion fatigue is, how it feels, why we get it, and then what we can do about it. So I decided that this was going to be half an hour that's just for you, okay? I'm not going to sell you the training. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a taster session, and if you want to come and talk to us about it at the end, then we're over on the other stand, okay? So, when you start in any health and social care role, you go and do some training. So you either train to be a healthcare professional like I did when I was starting my nurse training, or you go into the profession and you learn those basic skills. And we do a lot of training, don't we? The gentleman over there told me they've got 70 modules on that training session. 70! And most of it's online now, isn't it? And we love that. We love the online training. I'm not having anyone, by the way, who did online training in CPR during the pandemic doing CPR on me. Okay, I'm a bit on the fence with that. But we do lots and lots of training. And the thing is with the training that it has basically 3 elements to it. It's the sort of health and safety training, isn't it? How to bend over without hurting yourself, how to fire a fire extinguisher or run away, one of the other options, yes? Or it's the clinical skills like the CPR training, or it's the stuff to do with the laws and the acts that keep us safe and the people that we're looking after safe. And that's great, and we need that training, and it's very important, and we have to do it every year because we all suffer from amnesia and can't remember the following year how to do the stuff we did the year before, but whatever. So we keep doing it. However, when you actually step out into the real world and you start looking after people in their own homes, in care homes, in hospitals, wherever it is, you realize very quickly that actually there isn't any training that we've done for this. See, we're not actually being employed to be able to bend over correctly, are we? That's not what actually we need to be doing. What we are employed for is our heart and our soul and our kindness and our compassion. And only when all of those are intact are we able to give good quality person-centered care. But we don't get emotional health and safety training. So what happens to a lot of us, and what happened to me, because I'm a compassion fatigue survivor, is that gradually over time we realize that we're not coping particularly well with this aspect of our jobs because we haven't had any training in it. What is missing is this. You can't walk through water without getting wet. You cannot spend every single day of your working life being involved in other people's suffering, other people's problems, other people's stress, other people's distress, without it affecting us. But we pretend we're okay, don't we? And when we've had a really bad day and somebody says to us, "How are you?" we say, "Fine." Yes, that's what we say. "I'm fine, I'm good." We may have had a day that the general public would never understand. Yes? Outside of our profession, they would never understand the kind of day we've had. But even then, when you get home and your loved ones say, "Are you all right?" you say, "Yeah, I'm all right, I'm good." What we've forgotten is that although we are very sophisticated animals, and we think we are because we use computers and we stand up and we talk, we're not actually that dissimilar from this guy. There's a very primitive part of our brain that has never changed and never will, and that's the part that's keeping us safe 24/7. It's the part of your brain that is always looking out for you to see whether there's any danger. And in his time, the danger was probably a physical thing. But in this world, most of the time, especially in the jobs that we do, the danger is an emotional thing. The danger that our body interacts with is that the person we're with is showing signs of stress or trauma. because they are maybe at the end of their life. Maybe they're hurt. Maybe they are psychologically hurting. Maybe their loved ones are relying on us and they are telling us about their distress. Maybe you're witnessing somebody who's passing away. And our brain doesn't differentiate between those two things. It will set off that fight and flight response immediately that it thinks we're in any kind of danger. And if the person who's standing in front of us is crying and distressed or hurt, our default position is, I must make sure that I'm safe too. So whether we like it or not, that fight, flight and freeze response immediately happens. But we pretend we're okay. We suppress it because that's our job. You're not allowed to run away. You get sacked. You have to stay with it. And your job is to be there for that person, to be the anchor in the storm, to hold on to them during their times of suffering and distress. So we suppress the hormones, and we pretend that that means that they're all going to go away and we'll be fine. We'll go home, have a glass of wine, it'll be all right tomorrow. And that's not how it works. The reason it affects us more than other people is because everybody sitting in front of me has some of this. We have empathy. Empathy is the ability to be able to put yourself into somebody else's shoes and really feel where they're coming from. And the better you are at making an empathetic response with somebody, the better you are at your job. But the more you step into their distress and into their trauma, the more it affects you. Now, you do not want to have no empathy. Right? You will end up on Panorama if you do this job with no empathy. Right? We're not going there. What we have to understand is we need to understand when we need to be looking after ourselves a bit better so that we have enough emotional energy to be able to give that empathy without it hurting us. But because we haven't had any emotional health and safety training, what happens to us is that we suddenly realize we're feeling different. It may be that you're not as enthusiastic about life as you were. Maybe you're relying too much on a glass of wine to get you through the end of the day. Maybe you're eating too much or exercising too much. That's never actually happened to me, but apparently it's a thing. But you start to feel different. Maybe you're just not sleeping very well. Now, up until the work of this chap, who's a guy called Charles Figley, who wrote about this initially in 1985, so it's been around for a long time, if you suffered from occupational stress, you were generally just signed off with depression or anxiety, and it didn't actually matter what you did. But then he started looking specifically at people who worked in health and social care environments and also in animal welfare environments. And he realized that there was a significant difference, and it's that fear response. When we are all the days that we're doing the work, when we are in that fear response, it has a different impact on us over time. So we have to take better care of ourselves. So he wrote a model, and what he did was he looked at the different symptoms and he's put them into what he calls phases, which is basically he's just organized them so that it makes us easier to understand where we are. So I'm going to go through each one of them with you. You will recognize yourself. Remember, this is normal. This is your body's reaction to that vicarious trauma that you're witnessing. So they're anxiety, irritability, withdrawal, and robot. Anyone recognize themselves before I start? Do you know where you are? Now, you don't do that and then leave. Okay, that's not how this works. The reason that I have spent the last 5 years of my life sorting out the training for people is that once we get better at understanding where we are, we can bounce back. And that's what we're talking about. So we're going to take them one at a time. Anxiety phase. Doesn't she look anxious? You would know, wouldn't you, that she was really anxious? Because this is what we do, especially ladies. We're very good at this. The more pressure you put on us, the less chance there is that anyone will know that we're feeling anxious. So this was me, yes? So she finds it really hard to relax and switch off when she gets home. Intellectually, we know that when we've had a really difficult day, we should go home and relax, do a bit of meditation, a bit of mindfulness. We don't do that, though, because we step back into our lives and we have all of the other stuff to deal with. She's not fun to live with. You try and take her on holiday when she's in this phase. She's going to micromanage your holiday. Yes, she is. And she can't switch off. She's not going to lie on a sun lounger, because what happens to you when you feel like this is that you feel guilty because you haven't got anything to worry about. Yes? That's where you go with this. The other thing you'll notice is that she's obsessed with work. So the whole place is going to fall down if she's not there. All right? So she has to get in at 6 and she can't leave till midnight. All of the rest of you, by the way, have got to behave yourselves and look after yourselves really well. But I'm in charge, so I'm allowed to do 17-hour days. Be careful with that one as a manager. So she's first in, last out. She also organises the Christmas party for you. She's also the chairman of the PTA and runs the parish council, because it doesn't stop when you get home when you feel like this. You've got on the adrenaline treadmill and you have to keep going. You can't get off. If you're recognising yourself and you're laughing, it's fine. Remember, this is normal. She's also going to micromanage me and you. So I'm going to micromanage myself. The house has to be perfect, and I'm going to get really angry if it's not. And everything at work has to be perfect. And what she's doing is she's trying to control the things she can control, because everything else feels out of control. So that's the first phase. Now we come to the phase that everybody recognises. This is the irritability phase. I don't know who this lady is, by the way. I just picked her picture. She just looks irritated. So she's going to fly off the handle over trivial things. You know when you're driving home and you've had a day and you've got nothing left to give anybody, right? You just about make it so that you can change the gear to get home, right? And you get home, and then 3/4 of the way home you remember that you had a piece of cake that you left somewhere, or a biscuit, and you're like, I'm going to cheer myself up with that when I get home. And you get home and they've eaten it, and you're going to rip their heads off. Yes? Or you ask them specifically to take the washing out of the washing machine, or the dishwasher, or walk the dog, or buy milk. It doesn't matter what it is. To your family, you've just lost the plot over something really trivial, like the top off the toothpaste. But to you at that moment, because of the way that you're feeling, you completely lose the plot. And that's very normal. That makes us feel guilty, though. When you're talking to a patient's relative or a client's relative who is very demanding, and you pick up the phone and go immediately to irritation instead of compassion, that can make you feel very guilty. So this phase can also be a very guilt-ridden phase. Your body is now going to start to give you some clues that you're not very well, okay, that you are absolutely stressed up to the eyeballs. So from here down, this is your unconscious mind. If you're driving home like this, you're stressed. Yes? If you've constantly got backache, neckache, irritable bowel syndrome, your whole body aches all the time, your body's going, hello. Don't wait until I waited, because I waited too long and I started having really bad panic attacks. Because my body got to the point where it was like, right, enough now. And I ended up having to have time off work for quite a while until I got better. This is when we need to go for help early. Next phase, withdrawal phase. Fight, flight, freeze. This is where your body goes into that slightly freeze, withdrawn phase. So what you see with people who are in this phase is that they just want to go home and chill out. Maybe they've lost enthusiasm for the job. They're still turning up, they're still brilliant care professionals, but they have lost their enthusiasm for the job. They complain about everything. So although maybe nothing's changed at work, now I'm going to complain about everything. I'm feeling bad, it's your fault. Not really, you know what I mean. It's your fault that I'm feeling like this. If you try and change anything in the work environment when someone's in this phase, they will push back at you really hard because they're only just hanging on by their fingernails. All he wants to do is go home and zone out. Shut the curtains, Netflix, bottle of wine. I just want to zone out. And as a coping strategy, from time to time, that's fine. But not every night. It's actually the opposite of what you need to be doing. And the final phase is the robot phase. Again, don't know who this lady is. She just looks fed up. What she's probably feeling inside when you get to this point is incredibly overwhelmed. Like there's too many people to look after, there's too much to do, I can't do this anymore. And it's not me, it's them. These millennials are all snowflakes. And if you go to her and you ask her for help, she might tell you to man up, because she's going to put it external, okay? And sometimes you get people within teams and they are described as being hardened, or they're hard to the job. You do not want to be looked after by someone who's in this phase. You do not want to be managed by them, because they're very shut down, they're very difficult to listen to. So, we don't want you to end up in any of these phases for any length of time. What we need for you to understand is that this is completely normal. This is your body's reaction to that vicarious trauma. And you will cycle through all of them in one day. So you start off feeling really enthusiastic and anxious, and you end up feeling very shut down, and this is just your body's way of protecting you. But we need to be more aware of it, because when we're more aware of it, then we know what to do when we're feeling it. We know what to do with the symptoms. The consequences of ignoring it are fairly obvious. People will leave the profession, people will get sick, and then there will be an impact on the service. And this patient-centered care will go out the window because people are literally just doing the job. So what can we do about it? I'm just going to check on my timing. What are we going to do about it? We're going to build up our emotional energy. So emotional energy gets called lots of different things. Emotional resilience is one way of talking about it, but there's lots of other ways. Don't get hung up on this phrase. It's turned into a kind of Marmite phrase, isn't it? Because people have gone, here, I have some emotional resilience training. Catch, and now you're resilient. That is not how this works. It's a process, and it's a partnership between you and the people that you're working for. So we also engage with the organisations we work with so that they understand at the end of the training when people need some extra support. So, emotional resilience. Think about it as water. You build up your reservoir of emotional energy, and you do that from the job that you do because you love it, and it gives you lots of emotional energy, but you also need an outside source. Then you fill up your reservoir, and then you allow some of that emotional energy to run down your stream. You've got enough to divert off to other people without your riverbed running dry. And the bedrock of emotional resilience is something we're massively suspicious of. Self-compassion. Self-compassion means that I have to value myself and care for myself exactly the same way as I care for the people that I look after. And if you don't value yourself, you don't feel that you're worthy of time spent looking after yourself, then you won't do what you need to do to look after yourself. You will turn into a martyr, and you will end up not having any emotional energy to give anybody else. This is a poem about emotional energy. If the mountain seems too big today, then climb a hill instead. If the morning brings you sadness, it's okay to stay in bed. If the day ahead weighs heavy and your plans feel like a curse, there's no shame in rearranging. Don't make yourself feel worse. If a shower stings like needles and the bath feels like you'll drown, if you haven't washed your hair for days, don't throw away your crown. A day is not a lifetime. A rest is not defeat. Don't think of it as failure, just a quiet, kind retreat. It's okay to take a moment from an anxious, fractured mind. The world will not stop turning while you get realigned. The mountain will still be there when you want to try again. You can climb it in your own time. Just love yourself till then. What we call it in EF training is being responsibly selfish. So if from now on you're going to do any of the things that I'm going to talk about for the next 10 minutes, and someone bangs on the bathroom door and says, why are you spending longer in the bath? You're going to go, because Jane told me to tell you that I'm being responsibly selfish. Okay? Take that from me. So we're going to talk about refuel, recharge, relax, because these are the main themes of the training. So the first one is food. We have a very complicated relationship with food, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, yes, we do. We do not see food as simply fuel. We have special food, and we have very special food for when we're feeling sorry for ourselves. Hands up the chocolate, people. There we go. And the cheese, people. There we go. And the both, people. What we do is something along those lines, yes? Now, I'm not telling you can't eat cake. Do not put that on the feedback forms. I'm watching you. What I'm saying is, if you do this to yourself, if you swing your blood glucose really high very quickly by stuffing your cake hole full of cake, what will happen to you is that your mood will change. We know that, don't we? We will get a bit of a sugar rush and we will feel better. But what goes up must come down. So when you're very stressed, one of the things you should try and avoid doing is swinging your blood glucose too quickly up and down, because it actually makes you feel worse. So that's the point at which you make a decision about whether or not there might be something else that you can eat instead. I've written a little ebook on this. You can email me and I'll send it to you. What I want you to think about from now on, though, is if you're feeling very stressed and you start to eat, think, why am I eating it? Am I eating it because I'm hungry? Am I eating it because I'm stressed? Am I actually rewarding myself for feeling stressed? Because that's a slightly different thing. What am I eating? Is there something that I could eat that would be better at this moment for me than a whole packet of Skittles? Maybe not. Make an informed choice. Where are you? Are you eating it in the fridge? And the children's Easter eggs, because that's coming up, isn't it? Who buys double Easter eggs? Where's Emma? Emma always buys double Easter eggs. She's one of my trainers because she knows she's going to eat them. And when are you eating it? Are you eating it late at night? Are you eating at wrong times of the day? So you're making yourself feel hungry, because that can have a huge impact on the amount of food you eat. So this is about eating a little bit more mindfully, all right? So that's the refuel. Now we're going to talk about recharging. So you need to be recharging yourself from something outside of work. So don't give yourself excuses for reasons why you're not doing the outside activities, socializing, being with your friends, going out and doing sporting activities, whatever it is, because that's going to help you with your emotional energy. So this is your challenge, and she's going to bring a microphone around because I'm going to pick on a couple of people. No, I'm not. You're going to offer themselves. This is your challenge. You've got a day off, right? This is a special day off that never exists, because on this day, you haven't got to do anything. The house is clean. The children are looked after. Everything is done. This is a day just for you. No one else, just for you. What is your day going to look like? What are you going to do on this day? Put your hand up and she'll bring you a microphone. You can tell me what you're going to do. Go.
I would get the bus into our local city, wander around the shops, probably not buy anything, just a load of window shopping, go somewhere special for lunch, come home and have a nap, and then do some crafts.
Oh, nice. There's lots of stuff in there. Anyone else want to share their day? Yeah, go for it.
Well, I live in Keynote Chase, so I just walk around the Chase.
Right.
Keynote Chase, and then just come back and go and see Netflix.
Lord.
I'm a Netflixaholic.
Okay. Anyone else? Who would go to a spa? Yeah, go on.
I would walk the dog. I'd take the dog out for hours.
Lovely.
I'd probably go to the cinema by myself, because I don't mind spending time on my own.
Yeah.
And then I'd get into bed and just read.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I like it. So, spa day. Yes. Shopping, cooking, crafting, spending time with friends and family, exercising, the stuff that you put off. This is how you're going to create and sustain this emotional resilience that's going to allow you to be able to do this job that you love, because otherwise you end up giving all your emotional energy away without replenishing it. So that's what's really important. So don't get rid of these things, and when you're feeling very stressed, these are the things that you're going to need. Shall I show you what I do? There you go. She thinks she's a horse. She's actually my counsellor. Okay, don't tell her. But I don't actually have to ride her to feel better. I went back to riding when I was at my lowest. It's about being with her outside, away from what I did, that helped me get better. Okay, so that's the recharging. Now we're going to talk about relaxing. Every single day when you do this type of work, because you have such high adrenaline levels, it's really important that you press Control-Alt-Delete on your brain. And one of the ways that you can do this is by relaxing. And you do not have to go and buy a special cushion and clothes and sit in the corner cross-legged. Okay? You can do it with breathing. Sit up straight. I'm going to do a breathing technique with you. Okay? Right. Put one hand, I've got to be careful. Put one hand here and one hand on your tummy. Now I want you to breathe in through your nose and do the thing that most women would never do under any circumstances, and stick your belly out. Breathe in and breathe out slowly through your mouth. And again, breathe in and breathe out. You feel your shoulders come down. Breathe in. Breathe out. What you're doing is you're activating your vagus nerve, which is taking you from fight and flight to rest and digest. And you only need 5 breaths to activate it to help yourself relax. But where do we hold all of the tension? in our necks. So let's do a neck exercise. We're going to do a little neck exercise. Be careful if you've got a problem with your neck. Very slowly, very carefully. Look over your right shoulder and count to 5. And then back and over the other shoulder and count to 5. Lovely. Now right ear to right shoulder. Think about it. Right, the other right. Yeah, that one. And then the other side, slowly. Just keep that relaxing. Yes, lovely. Right, now you all have to go the same way. Right arm out, gently across your body. Don't smack the person next to you. And then the other way. Lovely. And then the last one, hold your hands behind your back and just gently pull down so you stretch across the front of your chest. Okay? And then release. And you'll find that you've released your shoulders. You can do that sat at the desk. You can do that at the end of the day sitting in the car. But it's really important that every single day you do something that just relaxes you, that presses Control Alt Delete, so that the next day when you wake up, you've taken your adrenaline level down a little bit, so you don't go to bed like that and then wake up and go higher and higher. Okay? Last thoughts. This is a nice full reservoir, okay? It's full of emotional energy that you need for yourself and your family and your loved ones, but also so that you can give that person-centered care and compassion to the people that you're looking after. Every day you're going to make sure you fill it up, doing some of the things we've talked about. But then you're also going to run a self-diagnostic. Even the printer runs a self-diagnostic, okay? We're going to run a self-diagnostic. So thinking about those symptoms of compassion fatigue, if you realize you're feeling very anxious, some of the things you can do, unplug yourself. Don't watch the news. It makes you feel more anxious, yeah? Go home and go for a walk. Stay away from the news and social media. Be careful what you eat. Eat mindfully. Don't make yourself feel worse by shoving lots of sugar in your mouth really quickly. Try some relaxation exercises, but do it when you're not feeling stressed, so that you've got them in your toolkit for when you need them. Don't try mindfulness for the first time when you're feeling stressed, because you'll get angry with yourself because you can't do it and it'll all go wrong. If you're feeling irritable, spend time with people who are nothing to do with work. Refill your energy from somewhere else. Yeah? Stay away from the emotional vacuum cleaners and remember who the Tiggery people are in your life that you can get some energy from. Find your passion. We've all got something we love doing, and we've often made it so that we're not doing it when we really need to be, okay? So find something you're passionate about that you can lose yourself in. 10 minutes a day doing something just for you will have a massive impact. That's your homework from me for the rest of your lives. And if you begin to feel detached, it's really important, if this stays with you for a period of time, that you admit it to yourself. You get some help from people who understand the job, because there are people out there that understand what we do and can help us if you don't start feeling better. So, in summary, compassion fatigue is an occupational hazard for doing this type of work. You can't avoid it. You don't want to avoid it because it means you're not making that empathetic connection with people. But you can manage it and you can strengthen your emotional resilience, but you need to be proactive and fill up that emotional reservoir, and then reactive when you realize that you're experiencing some of those symptoms. And you need to take some time every day to be responsibly selfish, and then you can carry on doing this job that you love for as long as you want to do it for, without it hurting you. Thank you very much for spending half an hour with me. I have a little bit more homework with you. You will notice on your chair there is a little piece of paper. At the end of our main training day, we ask people to make some promises to themselves, and then they would get that reflected back and they get a little self-care present. What I want you to do, if you want to, is make a little promise. Just give it in to this lovely lady at the back, Natalie. We will collect them up. We will send you a present, okay? Just to remind you to look after yourself, okay? So that's what we're going to do. And if you want to come and see what you can get, come over to the stand and we'll talk to you a little bit more about the training and how we might be able to help you and your teams. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.